I constantly want to be growing. If I'm not growing, I feel very insignificant. I think that's also a problem I have, but it also drives the growth. And so always growing and rock bottom doesn't have to mean like you have no money. Rock bottom could be meaning mentally you feel so unfulfilled with what you're doing and you're not doing something that's providing happiness to you. I've found in my life that when I'm growing and doing things and getting closer to the goal and accelerating and putting the work, that makes me happy. That's why I'm addicted to the movements forward, to the work, to the gym, the meetings, calls, podcast shows, events, all of that.
Welcome to Successful with ADHD. I'm Brooke Schnittman. Let's get started. Welcome everybody to another episode of Successful with ADHD. Today I have Brandon T. Adams joining us from Nashville, his home, currently in the moment. It might be St. Pete's tomorrow. It might be New York or California or somewhere else or. Yes, he does have ADHD, but he is very successful with it. So let me just give you a little quick background on Brandon. He is not a one, but he's a 2-time Emmy Award winner. And his wife has 2 Emmy Awards. So together they have 4. How cool is that? He is a winning producer, a TV host, a media expert, an investor, an advisor, passionate about inspiring and motivating others. And he's the founder of Accelerated Media Group. And Brandon's produced commercials, social media content, TV shows, all which captivate and empower audiences that help scale companies grow. Welcome, welcome.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's great to have you. And is there anything else that you would like to share that I missed when introducing you?
The one thing, I guess, I'm from Iowa. I always like to tell people from a small town in Iowa. I grew up in a town of 700 people and I started selling ice for a living as a delivery guy. So like I ice to Emmys and production and all that. It's like a full 360 different direction, but I'm very grateful for where I'm from. And I always like going back to Iowa.
How cool is that? That's really cool. I've never been to Iowa. My husband lived in Iowa. He was a pilot, so he lived pretty much everywhere, but that was one of them. So you had mentioned that you did sell ice. Before we get into your journey, if you could tell me when you were diagnosed with ADHD.
It really happened when I was 18, 20, 20, 22. And what happened is I was, at that time, I've always been an entrepreneur my entire life. I was working for a company and I was a distribution manager. So I managed drivers, trucks, and everything in the ice business. And I started getting a lot of paperwork, something I wasn't like used to doing. I had employees, I had all these different things that was new to me. And it was so much stuff. And I started realizing I felt like everything was everywhere. And I couldn't focus on one thing, get one thing done because I was go here, go there. And eventually I realized, okay, to go in and because I had friends who were prescribed and they took Adderall. And so I went to the doctor and they actually gave me something else first, which totally was not right.
Okay.
It did the opposite. I've never actually talked about this before.
Well, welcome to an ADHD podcast where we talk about everything and everything. ADHD.
Well, I don't remember what it was called, but I remember taking the medication and I remember because I never miss. I'm always on time. I remember sleeping through my alarm and waking up the next day. And because I usually would wake up at 4 a.m., I missed everything. I got there like 7:30 p.m. I was supposed to be there at 6 a.m. for this job, this company I manager.
Yikes.
And I woke up and it was like, what just happened? It knocked me cold.
Totally. Because you were so active all day and intense that it just you were sleeping hard.
I was sleeping hard. And then so they switched it. I got prescribed for with Adderall. It was extended release. It was like 30 milligrams because I had friends that had like 80 milligram, 100 milligram.
Wow.
And so for me, see what I talk about is like side effects too of that and how it affected me, but also just how my life, because I still personally, like sometimes my wife will be talking to me or somebody will be talking to me and I swear I acknowledge it, but I don't think I ever heard it. And like, I literally and it gets me in trouble because it's like I don't remember saying that, I don't remember hearing that,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's not good. And then sometimes I'm
Mm-hmm.
so focused on one thing, and then I
Mm-hmm.
have it right, and so I definitely deal with it still. But back then, I got prescribed, and so for anybody out there, this was my own experience, so I like the fact that I never liked to sleep. I never cared to sleep. I wanted to keep working. I was sleeping like 4 hours a night. Like it was hard for me to sleep, but I would always get things done, and I was working nonstop. And you
Mm-hmm.
tensely focus because it sparks part of your brain, and the science behind it, what it does, is insane. And so I was getting more work done. I was
Mm-hmm.
everything more done, more done. The side effects for me is I never wanted to eat. I also sleeping wasn't much, and then the other side of it was there's emotions that happen from that. I'm very strong in my mind, but I could see where people it could go towards, let's say, depression. Like they take it super happy,
Yep. That's a side effect. Yep.
and then it goes like there. So I would always acknowledge my head. I'm like, oh, I'm really motivated going, and then like 2 p.m. would come, and then all these like I call the devil in my head. It's like all these things are coming at me, like thinking in different ways, very agitated, angry, and I'm like acknowledging it, but wouldn't let it like react. But I knew it was there,
Mm-hmm.
and then I remember watching the movie Limitless. You ever seen that?
Oh yeah, it's so good with Bradley Cooper. I mean, it's great to look at, and also it's a great movie as well. That's where Jim Quick came up with his book name, Limitless.
Really? Is it?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
that well,
And,
now I know
well,
that.
there you go.
If you watch the movie, when he runs out of the stuff, he feels sick. He can't think. All these things. I thought to myself, what if the world came to an end, or what if something happened where I was reliant on a pill, a drug? I'm fucked. Like, what am I gonna
Yeah.
do? Like,
Right.
and so I did not want to be reliant on
On
that,
anything,
and
right?
yeah, and that just clicked to me. I'm like, man, I can't be reliant. And so
Mm-hmm.
I did what I would suggest no one to do, and probably could be really bad for you, like a drug addict going off drugs, is one day I stopped completely.
Mm.
I stopped.
Mm-hmm.
And so for a week, draw, drain,
Mm-hmm.
like I would forget shit and all these
Mm-hmm.
different things. And so it was hard at first, but then I found other ways to deal. I worked out. I always worked out, exercise,
Mm-hmm.
like get the blood flowing, mind going.
Sure.
And then like I would
Serotonin,
do,
endorphins,
yes,
all those neurotransmitters.
I'm very, my calendar is like, I go by my calendar and everything. And then I also have in my phones, like I can look at my phone right now, and in my notes section, I have, let's see here, 1,000, 3,664 notes. And so I have notes that I take, but I also have one note that I always go back to, which has different things I need to get done. So that's my way of organizing and scheduling and making sure I get things done. But
Mm-hmm.
that was quite the journey. But I never wanted it for people out there. Some people totally understand, like you may be taking it for the rest of your life, any kind of medication.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I never wanted to be tied to any drug.
Mm-hmm.
And I use health, fitness, exercise as my way to deal with any problem. Also, a mindset. Like
Mm-hmm.
I tell myself things like, even if my head's starting to hurt or feel, I will say I'm not sick because I don't want my mind and energy to go towards that, which actually will actually make it worse if you do think towards it. And so
So mind
that's my
over
own,
matter for you.
yes. And so that's my own experience. And that's how I dealt with it.
Yeah. So, everyone is different with ADHD, but I totally agree that medication, pills don't teach skills. And it's really important to know how to work with your ADHD brain if or if not taking medication. So when people come to me for coaching, I usually recommend that they don't try the medication right away, do the behavioral stuff first.
Mm-hmm.
And then if they feel like they need the medication, then take it because your brain does work a lot better with both. But I totally understand why some people don't want to take medication, and to each their own. And, you like what you put in your body.
You can microdose. You can microdose on anything. I mean, think about how you could, because a lot of people, I think they go for a full thing and they have so much, then it's like, think about, you drink so much caffeine, so much coffee, and it does as much. But let's say you microdose. That's a whole nother route maybe we
Interesting.
don't go down.
Do you microdose?
On various things I try, just in terms of like a little bit of something versus the whole thing. Because I
Mm-hmm.
don't like, I don't like being reliant on anything.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So you stopped taking medication and you had this ice company. I know that you went on Shark Tank. It ended up not being picked up.
Shark Tank casting call. It wasn't Shark
Gotcha.
Tank, but there was like 300 people in line. It was right before you go on Shark Tank.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think the whole concept is pretty cool because with ADHD, we very often forget to drink water. And many times, if we leave our water out, right, it's going to get hot. It's going to get, not
Yeah.
tasty. So having an ice cube that can fit into a water bottle is genius. So I think your idea was
Thank
wonderful.
you.
Anywho, you had that idea. Then what happens?
Yeah. So the idea was the foundation to Accelerate Media Group production, raising money, investing, everything. When I came up with the idea, I was in the ice business, and it was a cool and flavored drinks. And again, pitched on Shark Tank casting call, pitched in front of groups, led to go and do crowdfunding. And I had about $100,000 into that endeavor, patents, trademarks, product, from idea to product selling, and never really made any money from it. And I got to
Hmm.
the point where I realized, oh, I have other talents and expertise. For one, people came to me for advice. Also, I started figuring out how to raise money. I
Hmm.
saw that there was a need for that. And then also, I love the component from the raising money side, and especially for my promoting Arctic Stick, we were shooting videos.
Hmm.
So, like, I was in front of the camera, creating videos, we were doing promo videos, and I really enjoyed that.
Hmm.
And so I started I remember doing some local like modeling, acting, and like commercial gigs just to get
Hmm.
experience. You never really make any money from that early on, but it was more of me learning. And then that led to me getting to what I do today. I got into more of the video production and helping people raise money, and eventually helping other people grow their products. Where the light bulb moment, or I say the big, let's say, opportunity came for me, is a guy came to me, a producer, and I was crowdfunding at that time. He saw what I did with Arctic Stick. He saw what I did with these other people projects. And he said, I have this pilot run of this TV show called Ambitious Adventures,
Hmm.
and got a 3-minute clip. He said, if you help me raise some money through crowdfunding for this show, I'm making my co-host. And instantly I was in. I was hungry for camera time for my own show. And we did that. 60 days later, we raised the money through crowdfunding, and then we filmed a show called Ambitious Adventures.
Hmm.
It was so cool. This was back in 2016. We
Hmm.
ended up distributing through Prime, Amazon Prime, Facebook Watch when it first came out, before it became
Hmm.
what it is today, and
Hmm.
then the Entrepreneur Network. And
Hmm.
and so we had people like, now you see him as a fighter, Jake Paul. We had Jack Canfield. We had Lewis Howes. All these interesting
Wow.
entrepreneurs. Kevin Harrington. Amazing show. We ended up getting an Emmy nomination. Never actually won an Emmy for it. We should have. And then after that, what happened is I became obsessed. I sometimes become so obsessed with things.
Sounds about
Dangerous.
right.
Yeah,
Ding ding ding. Do you also have OCD with ADHD?
I think so. I don't.
Okay.
I've never been asked that before. What would it even mean to have that? Actually,
So I'm not a psychiatrist, so I can't, diagnose you, but my husband has OCD and ADHD, and he becomes so obsessed with one thing that everything else shuts out. Now it's really hard to distinguish between, is it the ADHD that is creating the obsessive thoughts, or is it a separate component of OCD? The way that I understand it is the OCD would run outside of the ADHD symptoms for it to just stand alone and have it as well as the ADHD. But it sounds like you just become obsessed, which is also a great thing in entrepreneurship. Because if you're not obsessed, then how is anything going to be really successful?
I mean, here's the thing. I, I've had my own version of success in my life. But I have a lot of very, like, say, successful friends, and the only way they become, like, let's say, extremely far in their career in a certain thing is because they became obsessed.
Yeah.
Now, there is side effects to that, and in terms of like less time with family or shutting things out and all that. And there's always a price to pay, and sometimes it's a mind fuck of like, do this, do that. What is it? And so, obsession is needed for massive success.
In anything.
And not everybody is meant to go be the next, let's say, Elon Musk or whatever it is.
But no offense to Elon Musk, but he's, what is he, divorced?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. His wife said, ex-wife said publicly, and she was very cool about it. She said, Elon has Tesla, has the goal of going to the moon, or not the moon, sorry, Mars, and has all these other things.
Where does she fit in, right?
Yeah, and then, like, how does that fit in? And there's obviously something that's going to come with that. And she acknowledged it. She just, hey, she just didn't want to
Absolutely.
be a part of it anymore because she needed her own life. And so you think about that. I see those kind of stories. What's the price you're willing to pay? And what do you really want from this? Because I've went down paths before and I look back, I'm like, did I actually even want this? Did I even
Yeah.
care? Things change as you get older. And I'm 33. When I'm 36, it'll probably a different kind of desire and want. And right now I'm on this wave, and maybe it's a different wave. I don't know. I
Sure.
can't predict the future.
Sure. How is that, if it's okay that I ask, you're married.
Yes. Yes.
So does she have ADHD?
No. No.
So how does that work in your relationship together? Obviously, she's very successful. She's had 2 Emmys as well. How does your obsession with what you do work into your relationship right now?
It's not easy. I mean, but after a decade of being through the journey together, it's easier. My wife was with me when I had nothing. She's been with me when they repossessed her vehicle and the bank took everything I owned, my land. Literally, I had to sell my guitar for $80 to buy food. And this was not that long ago. This is 2019, after we had the show and Emmys and all that and considered
Yeah.
successful, right? But I'm broke as fuck and I have no money.
Yep. It can happen to anyone at any time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's when you go through that and you actually, like, still together after that, it's that's a win. That's an Emmy right there, right? And so life has ups and downs. I believe everything happens for us. And when I am a unique individual and what I do is
Mhm.
very unique. And so the people that have been with me for the last 5 to 10 years are my ride or dies because they've seen the journeys. My business partners, my friends, my inner circle, and there's some people that have come and gone. It's not easy. I mean, if you ask anybody, I sometimes I'd rather interview the close family members or significant others than the actual person and ask them, what is it you have to deal with? Because they are like a huge component to that success, and they actually, like, the things they have to go
Yes.
through. People don't
Yes.
talk about that. I mean, it's it's such a key part to all of it. I'm a huge advocate of Think and Go Rich, and
Hmm.
we produced the film and the book. I have to raise a lot of money for it. And one of the things I spoke about, I was in the film, is the influence of love and through a significant other. And so your significant other can make you or break you, and their influence will allow you to become the top of your game, or they can pull you back. And so
Totally.
I've had the ability to have the influence of my significant other to help me be up on my game, call my shit out, but also just perform in different ways. And some people don't have that, and
Yeah.
and that will decide your future.
Absolutely. It is so complex when you're dealing with entrepreneurship, the passion, the drive that you have, ADHD, then you have a neurotypical partner. She started with you when you weren't this. So now you guys had to grow together, and her world is so different. Like, you and her dynamic is not what she initially signed up for, right? Because
Hmm.
initially you didn't have all of this. So I
Yeah.
give both of you a lot of credit because the amount of communication that people on the outside probably don't see in the 10 years that you've been together, and the amount of newness, transitions, and things that she had to deal with and you had to deal with, that must have been a lot. So I give you guys credit.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Back to you. I want to know, now that you are on the upward trajectory. So you said you lost everything in 2019, and this is huge for entrepreneurs and people with ADHD because, first of all, ADHDers are 300 times more likely to be an entrepreneur for
Good to
many
know.
reasons.
Yeah. Didn't know that. Yeah.
Yeah, for many reasons. And we've spoken about it on previous episodes. But then we have this all or nothing mentality, which you talked about. You become obsessed. So, and we're risk takers very often. So we can not see the future and put everything, time, money, all of our resources into something that we truly believe in. And then it doesn't go as expected, right?
Yeah.
And then we lose it all. I mean,
Yeah.
Elon Musk did that how many times, right? He was a billionaire, then he
Many.
lost so much money on Tesla, right? So like you see these people who are really successful, but there's a lot of volatility. So you are on this upward trajectory. What is your hope for your future? And I'm sure you can't see 10 years out from now or 20 years out for now, but what's your goal?
Yeah. So I believe everything happened for me. The facing bankruptcy and losing everything and all that to prepare me for where I'm going now. Because once you hit that low, you realize what you're capable of, and it gives you this confidence and belief in yourself that anything is possible. Because when you dig out of that, it's like, oh, nothing's gonna take me down.
Mm-hmm.
Next 24 to 36 months, I'm in this like acceleration mode.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about everything I did over the last 10 years. Now that 10 years of foundation makes things accelerate even more every day that goes by with what I'm doing right now. And
Yeah.
so I'm on this path of building, let's say, empire, helping more people, influencing them, but also I'm in wealth building mode. I really believe in building wealth
Mm-hmm.
because I've been completely broke, and you can't really help many people when you have no money. It's and people are grown up to believe money can be evil and all these things, but I will tell you,
It gives you a lot of opportunity too.
yeah, when you have nothing, you can't donate to charities, you can't buy a meal for somebody randomly. There's a lot you
You
can't
can't buy
do.
a meal for yourself.
Exactly. You got to sell your guitar. And so there's no justice in that. And for me, I believe it's your duty to help people use your God-given gifts to really provide value to the world, and in return get value, which is in this case monetary, cash, whatever, crypto. And then with that, I believe it's our duty to do good with that. And how can you use that to, yes, have a better lifestyle for you and people around you, but also how can you use it for good? How can you create things that create goodness in the world? And so that's a mission I'm on.
Great.
I believe in the reason why I love video and film and branding and all that, because we live in a world of influence. I
Mm-hmm.
work with a lot of influencers, and I see the power of what an influencer can have, good or bad. And
Mm-hmm.
so as I build up my influence as an individual and the people around me, I can use that in a way to, yes, make more money, but also to have more of a positive impact and persuade or influence people in ways that can do good for the world. And so that's you look at my future. What is it? I'm building a brand. I'm working on some TV show projects right now. I got a couple coming out next month. Yeah, one is the next crypto gem.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like Shark Tank, but it's cryptocurrency. It'll be
My
on.
husband and I will have to watch that. We've invested a lot of money in crypto.
It's coming out September 7th, so I'm excited for that. But I'm also working on some internal projects. I mean, one of the things I'm looking towards, I have the goal of being a guest shark on Shark Tank within 24 months. And so
Cool.
working on that, but also just building out content, creating content that inspires, motivates, educates people, and having fun along the way.
I love that you said, you're a persuader. It's interesting because very often a persuader has a negative connotation,
Yeah.
but, or and I should say, in your case, it's the mission behind the persuasion. So salespeople are persuaders, right? But if you're selling good services and products,
You need to persuade them.
you have to, right? It's not about the money, it's about the mission. So,
Yes. So it's your duty. If you have a good heart, like there's people who use persuasion in ways to just get the buck, right? For me, sometimes if I really believe somebody needs something I have to offer, or I need them to be involved with something, I need to use my negotiation and persuasion skills to persuade them to do the thing that they may not think is right for them in that moment, but I know it's right for them from past experience.
mhm, mhm.
And if I can persuade them to do something down the road, they're going to thank me and be like, I'm glad I did that. But they need somebody that
Yeah.
believes in them to show them that path. And that's what I mean by the persuasion side.
Yes, yes. And I appreciate the fact that you call yourself a persuader with those negative connotations, because
Yeah.
now that you are explaining to people what persuasion really is, it can be used for manipulation and for bad, but it can also be used for really good things and for mankind. And having someone, like you said, believe in the person. I wouldn't have got into coaching had I not been persuaded to take a coaching class
Yeah.
in 2018. My life also was up in the air, and I had reached a lot of success, but I did not like what I did. And I was totally lost. I had a horrible boss. And one of my friends said, "You have to join this program." I'm like, "What is it?" "Just come." I knew nothing about it, but I trusted him.
Yep.
And I chose to stay in that program for 1 year when all I needed to do was stay in it for 3 months. So when someone believes in you and you trust them, there's so much more that you could do with yourself in your life. So I really do appreciate
Good
hearing
for
that.
you. Good for you.
Well,
It's,
good for him
you
and
took the leap.
for
Yeah.
persuading me.
Yeah.
So awesome. So tell me, for those people who are listening, you have ADHD, you have met with success, you are persistent, you are dedicated, you're driven, you're obsessed. So there might be times where you go rock bottom again. And that could happen to anyone, right? If you don't play things safe, right? Like you're not a safe person, I don't think. I don't think that is in your
No.
wheelhouse. Okay.
And, and I mean, I constantly want to be growing. If I'm not growing, I feel very
Shrinking.
insignificant. Yeah. And so I think that's also a problem I have, but it also drives the growth. And so always growing, and rock bottom doesn't have to mean like you have no money. Rock bottom could be meaning mentally you feel so unfulfilled with what you're doing and you're not doing something that's providing happiness to you. And so I've found in my life that when I'm growing and doing things and getting closer to the goal and accelerating and putting the work, that makes me happy. And so that's why I'm addicted to the movements forward, to the work, to the gym, the meetings, calls, podcast shows, events, all of that.
Yeah, I love that. And you're 33 years old. So, like,
Yeah.
how do you, and I'm 39, so please, I'm not that much older, but
Yeah.
I've gotten this before. Like, okay, you're in your 30s. What do you know? Right? Like, you've done so much. And the fact that you own how many companies? 20?
I'm a shareholder in 30 something.
30 companies, right? And a lot of them are 100 million plus.
Four of them are worth over.
Okay. So, how does someone who, like you, right? And I don't mean that in a negative way, but someone with less
Like
time on,
you.
like you, someone with less time on earth, let's put it that way, just do all of these things.
You really have to have the right team behind you and proximity. There's a few people in my life that because I went in the long game and provided value and got into business with them, they provided those opportunities that I wouldn't have got by myself. And so that also catapulted everything else I was doing. And the old saying, you are the average of the five people you spend the most time with.
So true.
My mentors, close friends, and business partners are super successful and known in what they do. And because of that, and because I'm of value and I make them better and they make me better, it's a good relationship, which leads to more opportunity, more deals, more success, more, you name it. It's really simple when you think about it. But the thing is, one, people don't put in the work. And two, people don't know what they want. Three, they aren't willing to come from a place of giving and helping and providing massive value to somebody first, and then in return, eventually it'll be in their favor. That's what I did, and so that's really how I have what I have today, and I'm grateful. And I am still a long ways to go. Anybody can do it. It's just you do it. Everybody knows it. This is what you got to do. You just got to do it.
You got to do it, right? You
Yeah,
actually have to take the action. So how do you pick a mentor? You answered my question. Do you have a mentor? Obviously the answer was yes. So
yeah, yeah. So find somebody who's already achieved what you want to achieve, and don't just say, "Hey, will you be my mentor?" Find a way to get into business with them or add value to them or just pay them. Honestly, like my first mentor, I paid him. I paid him to speak at one of my
you
events.
value his time.
Yeah, because everybody wants something from you. And so when you come to a place, I'm going to help you and not no expectation. And so how I built up my real connections is I paid for people's events, their coaching, their mentorship, their time. And then I found ways to help them make money, which ultimately, because I was adding so much value and had talent that was irresistible, they found ways to bring me in on the deals and opportunities, which ultimately meant they became my business partner, which then that's how I made my money. And so that's the mindset you got to go. And so for me, I'll give you one of my greatest mentors. I was with him the last couple of days. So Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank and created the
Yep.
infomercial. I hired 12 years ago a guy named Cactus Jack Behringer as a consultant to help me with my invention artist thing. Cactus Jack did a deal with Kevin on Shark Tank. It was the
Mm-hmm.
body jack is what the product was. Barbara Corcoran and Kevin invested in
Mm-hmm.
it. And Cactus Jack became my mentor. I paid for his time and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But I was in one degree of separation from Kevin Harrington. And I
Mm-hmm.
started studying him, reading his books. I really resonated. He was from Ohio. I'm from
Mm-hmm.
Iowa, both young entrepreneurs. And I wanted to get him as a business partner and a mentor. So what did I do? Eventually got connected and then hired him to speak at one of my events, which ultimately led to us being in proximity. And then we ended up my crowdfunding background. We launched a book together because I had experience in launching big book campaigns. That led to one of our first deals together, which by
Mm-hmm.
the way was a product called Peeps. It did about it was at like a half a million
Like the
eyeglass cleaner.
marshmallows? Oh,
No,
okay.
it's eyeglass cleaner.
I'm like, I could eat
And
those in Easter every
I love
year. They're
them by
so
the way.
good.
Those are great. And so
Okay.
that product had done maybe a half a million in sales.
Wow.
That product has now done over 150 million. And so
Wow.
that was one of our first collaborations together. And then ever since then, we've done a
He
lot of
trusts
other
you.
things. Yeah, trust because there's not a day that goes by. Somebody wants something. They're trying to take advantage.
Always. Don't start and it's so easy to sniff that out too, even if you don't start with, hey, like can you give me this or it's easy to read that at this point, don't you think?
Definitely, it is. So long story short, to answer the question, find somebody that you resonate with, vibe with, that can already achieve what you want to achieve in a certain way. Find a way to get into business with them, learn their ways, and then you can do it in your own way. You take the talent expertise association and you can scale from there.
Yes, I love that. Thank you so much. And what would be the one thing for any ADHD or entrepreneur, let's say, or husband who needs to feel like there's hope for them in the future? What would be the one piece of advice that you would give?
Just take action. I know that sounds very simple, but you could be there thinking and all over the place. But the thing that I've always done, and sometimes where I don't know the answer or I'm questioning, what do I do? I take action. And sometimes that's as simple as me going to the gym or running because it changes my state of mind and then it allows me to be in a better state to do something. Or
Yes.
sometimes it's like, oh, I'm lost, I'm confused, what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna call somebody right now because it's taking action. And that call might turn into a different state of mind. So take action towards where you're wanting to go. And again, it could be moving around, running, writing an email, doing something.
I love that because for people with ADHD, if we sit for too long, Then we get into paralysis. So
I know,
we
I got
need
to
to
go
get
now.
up.
So.
We need to get, okay. I thought you were standing this whole time. You looked very strong and powerful on the screen. Must be all of the success. Yeah, no, I hear you. So your time is truly valuable. So I appreciate the fact that you came on Successful with ADHD. You shared your story for people who are listening and are looking for that hope as an entrepreneur, as a husband, as a wife, or just as an adult with ADHD. I think that this is really valuable to them. So I appreciate you. And if people want to learn more about you, use your services, where should they go?
Brandon T. Adams on social media everywhere, or BrandonTAdams.com. Or there's an event my wife and I do every year called Rise and Record, which is all about sharing your story through video.
So cool. Well, thank you, Brandon, for being on Successful with ADHD.
Thank you.
And sharing your story.
It was a lot of fun.
I agree. Thanks for listening to this episode of Successful with ADHD. I hope it helps you on your journey. And if you need any additional support for you or a loved one with ADHD, feel free to reach out to us at coachingwithbrooke.com and all social media platforms at Coaching with Brooke. And remember, it's Brooke with an E. Thanks again for listening. See you next time.